The Manhattan skyline glowed against the dark September evening as lightning split the sky above the Crystal Heights Hotel. Inside the Grand Ballroom, New York's elite gathered for the annual Children's Hope Foundation Charity Gala. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors, while champagne flutes clinked in celebration. But Nathan Pierce felt suffocated by the pretense surrounding him. At 34, Nathan had built Pierce Industries from the ground up after inheriting nothing but debt from his parents. He had transformed a struggling tech startup into a billion-dollar empire. Through sheer determination and brilliant innovation, tonight he wore success like an expensive tailored suit, yet it felt heavier than ever. Escaped to the storm, Nathan excused himself from a conversation with Senator Williams and headed toward the rooftop terrace. He needed air, space, silence. The storm had driven most guests inside, leaving the terrace abandoned except for the rain that now fell in steady sheets. He stepped outside, letting the cold droplets soak through his shirt as thunder rumbled overhead. That was when he saw her. A young woman stood near the edge of the terrace, her emerald dress clinging to her figure as rain streamed down her face. She stood completely still, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the city as if searching for answers in the storm. Something about her posture spoke of deep sadness, someone carrying unbearable weight. A meeting in the rain, Nathan approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. As he drew closer, he noticed she was trembling, whether from cold or emotion he could not tell. When she finally sensed his presence and turned, their eyes met, and Nathan felt something shift inside his chest. She was beautiful. Not in the polished way of the women inside, but in a raw, unguarded way. Her dark hair stuck to her wet cheeks, and her hazel eyes held a vulnerability that took his breath away. She looked young, perhaps mid-20s, with the kind of innocence that had not yet been fully crushed by the world. "Are you all right?" Nathan asked gently, having to raise his voice slightly over the rain. She blinked as if surprised to find she was not alone. A sad smile touched her lips. "I needed to breathe. Inside, everything feels so planned, so controlled. Out here, at least the storm is honest." Her words resonated with something deep inside him. Nathan understood that feeling more than she could know. He removed his jacket and stepped closer, draping it over her shoulders. She accepted it with a grateful nod, pulling it tight around herself. "I know what you mean," Nathan said softly. "Sometimes the rain feels more real than anything happening in there." Trapped together, they stood in comfortable silence for a moment, two strangers finding unexpected peace in each other's presence. Then another crack of thunder echoed, and suddenly the lights flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in. But the rooftop access door had automatically locked when the power failed. They were trapped together in the dimly lit stairwell entrance, with only a single emergency bulb casting soft shadows around them. The storm raged outside while they stood in this small pocket of shelter, suddenly more intimate than either had anticipated. "I suppose we should wait for someone to notice," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan leaned against the wall, studying her face in the soft glow. "What were you running from tonight?" She hesitated, then something in his expression must have reassured her. "My father wants to arrange my future. He has plans for who I should marry, what company I should join, how I should live my entire life. Tonight was supposed to be another step in his grand design. But I just wanted one moment where I could decide something for myself." Confessions in the dark, the pain in her voice cut through Nathan like a blade. He understood that kind of prison, the cage built from expectations and obligations. "You deserve better than that," he said firmly. "You deserve to choose your own path." She looked at him with surprise, as if no one had ever said such a thing to her before. "Do you believe people can really choose their own destiny? Or are we all just playing parts someone else wrote for us?" "I think we can fight for our choices," Nathan replied, moving closer. "I think we can refuse to let anyone else write our story." Her breath caught, and for a long moment they simply looked at each other. The air between them felt charged with something neither could name. Slowly, tentatively, she reached up and touched his cheek, her fingers trembling against his skin. "Thank you," she whispered. for seeing me as a person, not just a piece in someone's game. The connection deepens. Nathan covered her hand with his own, turning his face slightly to press a kiss to her palm. The gesture was tender, intimate, and it seemed to break something open inside both of them. She stepped closer, and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her as if she might disappear. They stood like that for what felt like hours, though it might have been only minutes. She fit perfectly against him, her head resting on his chest, his chin on her hair. No words were necessary. They had found something rare and precious in this unexpected moment. When the lights finally flickered back on, and voices echoed from inside, they pulled apart reluctantly. She looked up at him with eyes full of unspoken emotion. "I should go before anyone finds us," she said, though she made no move to leave. "Will I see you again?" Nathan asked, knowing he sounded desperate, but not caring. She smiled sadly, handing back his jacket. "I hope so. But hoping and having are very different things." Dawn and departure? Before he could respond, she slipped past him and disappeared down the stairs. Nathan stood frozen, his heart pounding, his mind racing. He had not even learned her name. By the time he followed, she had vanished into the crowd, leaving him with nothing but the memory of her touch and the lingering scent of jasmine. As dawn broke over Manhattan, Nathan stood at the window of his penthouse, unable to sleep. Unable to stop thinking about the mysterious woman who had appeared in the storm. He did not believe in fate or destiny, but something told him their story was far from over. Nathan Pierce had never been a man who lost focus. His entire empire was built on discipline, strategy, and unwavering concentration. Yet for 2 weeks after that stormy night, he found himself staring out windows, losing track of conversations, and replaying every moment with the mysterious woman from the rooftop, his executive assistant. James noticed the change immediately. During their morning briefing, Nathan had to ask him to repeat the quarterly projections 3 times. James finally set down his tablet and gave his boss a concerned look. "Sir, if you need some time off, the company can manage without you for a few days," James suggested carefully. Nathan shook his head, running a hand through his dark hair. "I'm fine. Just distracted by the Hart situation." That much was true, though not in the way James assumed. Richard Hart, the real estate magnate who controlled half of Manhattan's commercial properties, had been systematically blocking every expansion move Pierce Industries attempted. The rivalry had started 5 years ago over a failed partnership and had grown into something almost personal. The hunt begins, but Nathan's distraction had nothing to do with business wars. Every night, he returned to the Crystal Heights Hotel, hoping to find her again. He spoke with staff, reviewed guest lists, and even hired a private investigator, though he felt foolish doing so. All he had were fragments, hazel eyes, jasmine perfume, and words about a controlling father, the investigator. A sharp woman named Grace Chen called him after a week with limited results. "Mr. Pierce, without a name or photograph, I'm searching through hundreds of possibilities. Can you give me anything more specific?" Nathan closed his eyes, remembering. She mentioned her father making plans for her marriage. She seemed young, educated, sophisticated, but trapped. She wore an emerald dress and a delicate gold bracelet with some kind of inscription I couldn't read. Grace promised to continue searching, but Nathan heard the doubt in her voice. Manhattan was full of wealthy daughters living under their father's control. Finding one without a name was nearly impossible. Meanwhile, the conflict with Richard Hart intensified. Hart Properties had just acquired the development rights to 3 key locations. K3rd needed for his new sustainable technology campus. It was a calculated move designed to cripple Pierce Industries. Expansion plans. Nathan sat in his office reviewing the damage when his business partner and closest friend, Victor Chen, walked in with a grim expression. "Hart is not just blocking us anymore," Victor said, dropping a folder on Nathan's desk. "He is actively trying to destroy us. He has been approaching our investors, spreading rumors about our financial stability, trying to poach our top engineers." Nathan felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Then we go on the offensive. I want a full analysis of Hart Properties' vulnerabilities. Every weak point, every overextended investment, every rival who wants to see him fall." Victor nodded but hesitated at the door. Nathan, this has become personal for him. I heard through channels that you embarrassed him somehow at the Children's Hope Gala. He has been obsessed with taking you down ever since. Nathan frowned, confused. I barely spoke to Hart that night. I left early because of the storm, whatever happened. He took it personally, Victor warned before leaving. The unexpected encounter, 3 days later. Nathan attended the Metropolitan Business Summit, an annual gathering of New York's most powerful executives. He went reluctantly, knowing Richard Hart would be there, knowing the tension would be unbearable. But Pierce Industries needed to maintain appearances and show strength despite Hart's attacks. The summit took place in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Convention Center. Hundreds of people in expensive suits networked beneath glittering lights while a string quartet played softly in the background. Nathan moved through the crowd mechanically, shaking hands and making small talk. While his mind remained elsewhere, then he saw her. She stood near the champagne fountain, wearing a midnight blue dress that made her look like she had stepped out of a dream. Her dark hair was styled elegantly, and she held herself with careful grace. But Nathan recognized the tension in her shoulders. The way she touched the gold bracelet on her wrist as if seeking comfort. Recognition and shock, his heart stopped. Time seemed to freeze. Every person between them faded into insignificance. She had not noticed him yet, her attention focused on an older couple speaking to her with animated gestures. Nathan started moving toward her without conscious thought, drawn by a force he could not resist. As he approached, she turned slightly, and their eyes met across the crowded room. He watched shock, joy, and fear flash across her face in quick succession. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came out. The champagne glass in her hand trembled slightly. Nathan reached her side, aware that people were watching but not caring. Up close, she was even more beautiful than he remembered. But there was something different about her tonight. A sadness in her eyes that went deeper than before. "It's you," he said softly, his voice rough with emotion.
Nathan?
She whispered, and hearing his name from her lips felt like coming home. "I looked everywhere for you," he continued, wanting to touch her but aware of the public setting. "I didn't even know your name. I thought I might never see you again." A complicated expression crossed her face. Maybe that would have been better, before Nathan could ask what she meant. A cold voice cut through their bubble of intimacy. "Olivia, darling, I have been looking for you." The devastating truth. Nathan turned to find Richard Hart standing behind them. His silver hair perfectly styled, his expression a mixture of possessiveness and barely concealed hostility. Hart placed a proprietary hand on the young woman's shoulder, and Nathan watched her entire body tense. "Mr. Pierce," Hart said with false politeness, "I see you have met my daughter." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. Daughter, Richard Hart's daughter. The woman he had held in the rain. The woman who had haunted his dreams. The woman he was falling for, despite every logical reason not to, was the daughter of his greatest enemy. Olivia, he now knew her name was Olivia, looked at him with eyes full of pleading and apology. "Nathan, I wanted to tell you. You knew who I was," Nathan said quietly, trying to process the betrayal while his heart shattered. "That night on the rooftop, you knew exactly who I was." "No," Olivia said desperately, taking a step toward him. "I swear I did not know your name until later. When I realized who you were, I was all ready." She stopped herself, but Nathan understood what she had been about to say. Already falling for you? Already in too deep? Already past the point of easy retreat? Confrontation. Richard Hart watched the exchange with sharp eyes, and Nathan saw understanding dawn on the older man's face. "So this is why you disappeared during the gala?" Hart said to his daughter, his voice dangerously quiet. "You were with him." "Father, please," Olivia began, but Hart cut her off. "We will discuss this at home." He turned to Nathan with cold fury. "Stay away from my daughter, Pierce. She is not part of whatever game you think you are playing." Nathan felt his own anger rising. "This is not a game. And maybe you should ask Olivia what she wants instead of making decisions for her." "How dare you," Hart hissed. "You know nothing about my family or what is best for my daughter." "I know she deserves to make her own choices," Nathan shot back. The confrontation was drawing attention now. People had stopped talking to watch the two powerful men face off. Olivia stood between them, looking torn and terrified. "Olivia's choice stop," Olivia said firmly, her voice stronger than Nathan had heard before. "Both of you, just stop." She turned to her father. "I need to speak with Nathan privately." "Just 5 minutes." Hart's face darkened. "Absolutely not." "Father, please," Olivia said, and something in her tone made Hart pause. 5 minutes. Then I will come home, and we can talk about everything. But I need this. Hart looked between them, clearly battling with himself. Finally, he nodded stiffly. 5 minutes. I will be waiting by the entrance. He walked away, his posture rigid with disapproval. Private words. Olivia led Nathan to a quiet corner behind a marble pillar, away from curious eyes. As soon as they were alone, she turned to him with tears streaming down her face. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I should have told you who I was that night. But you were the first person who ever looked at me like I was more than just Richard Hart's daughter. You saw me, really saw me, and I was selfish enough to want that for just a little while longer." Nathan's anger melted away, replaced by aching tenderness. "Olivia, I don't care whose daughter you are. That night meant something to me." "You meant something to me." "It meant something to me too," she said, her voice breaking. "But you see how impossible this is. My father hates you. Your company is at war with his. We live in different worlds that are actively trying to destroy each other, and we find a way to bridge those worlds," Nathan said. Reaching out to gently wipe a tear from her cheek, she leaned into his touch for just a moment before pulling back. "You do not understand. My father controls everything in my life. Where I live, where I work, who I see. If he knows I have feelings for you, he will make both our lives miserable." "Let me talk to him," Nathan urged. "No," Olivia said quickly. "That will only make things worse. Nathan, please. For both our sakes, we need to pretend that night never happened. We need to stay away from each other." The impossible goodbye. Ethan felt his heart breaking, but saw the fear in her eyes and knew she believed what she was saying. "Is that really what you want?" Olivia looked at him for a long moment, memorizing his face. "What I want does not matter. It never has." "It matters to me," Nathan said fiercely. She smiled sadly. "Then remember me kindly. Remember that night as something beautiful, not as the beginning of more pain." Before Nathan could respond, she turned and walked away, her blue dress disappearing into the crowd. He watched her go, feeling like something essential had been ripped from his chest. When he finally left the summit an hour later, his mind was made up. Olivia Hart might think their story was over, but Nathan Pierce had not built an empire by accepting defeat. If her father wanted a war, he would get one. And this time, the prize Nathan was fighting for was worth more than any business deal. He was fighting for love. The following days were torture for both Nathan and Olivia. Nathan threw himself into work during the day. But every night, he found himself driving past the Hart family estate in the Hamptons, hoping for just a glimpse of her. Olivia, meanwhile, felt like a prisoner in her own home. Her father had increased security, monitored her every move since the summit. But love has a way of finding paths where logic sees only walls. 2 weeks after their confrontation, Olivia received an anonymous delivery at her office, where she worked as a consultant for her father's company. Inside the plain brown package was a single white rose and a note written in elegant handwriting. "The Brooklyn Bridge. Midnight. Please come. I need to see you." Olivia's hands trembled as she read the words. She knew she should throw the note away and forget about Nathan Pierce. But her heart had other plans. That night, she told her security detail she was going to bed early, then slipped out through the servants' entrance her mother had shown her years ago. When she was a child, the Brooklyn Bridge stood magnificent against the night sky. Its cables lit up like strands of diamonds. Nathan waited near the pedestrian walkway, his coat collar turned up against the November wind. When he saw Olivia approaching, his entire face transformed with relief and joy. "You came," he breathed, closing the distance between them. "I should not have," Olivia said, but she was smiling despite herself. "This is dangerous for both of us." Nathan reached out and took her hands in his. "Then let's be dangerous together." I have spent 2 weeks trying to forget you, Olivia, and I cannot do it. I will not do it. Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes. Nathan, my father has doubled security on me. He suspects something. If he finds out about this meeting, he will destroy you. He has the power and the connections to do it. Let him try, Nathan said fiercely. I am not afraid of your father. I am only afraid of losing you before we even have a chance to see what this could be. They stood together on the bridge, the city lights reflecting in the water below, two people caught between duty and desire. Olivia knew she should walk away. But Nathan's presence was like oxygen after years of holding her breath. Secret. Romance Begins that night marked the beginning of their secret romance. They met in hidden places, always careful, always watching for her father's spies. Sometimes they would meet in a small bookstore in Greenwich Village, where the elderly owner, Mrs. Patterson, took pity on them and let them hide in the rare books section. Other times they would meet in Central Park before dawn, walking through empty paths while the city still slept. Nathan showed Olivia parts of New York she had never seen, despite living there her whole life. He took her to a tiny jazz club in Harlem, where musicians played for the love of music, not for wealthy audiences. He brought her to a rooftop garden in Queens, where immigrants grew vegetables from their home countries. He helped her see the city not as her father's empire, but as a living, breathing community, Olivia. In turn, showed Nathan how to be vulnerable. She taught him that strength was not just about building empires, but about opening your heart, even when it terrified you. They talked for hours about everything, their dreams, their fears, their childhoods, their hopes for futures they were not sure they could have. Love deepens. One cold December evening, they met at their favorite spot, a hidden garden behind an old church in Brooklyn. Nathan had brought hot chocolate and blankets, creating a cozy nest among the winter flowers. Olivia arrived looking more beautiful than ever, her cheeks flushed from the cold, her eyes bright with happiness. I have something to tell you, Nathan said as they settled onto the bench. I have been offered a major contract in London. It would mean leaving New York for 6 months, maybe longer. Olivia's face fell. Are you going to take it? Nathan looked at her intently. That depends on you. I will not leave if it means losing you. But Olivia, we cannot keep living like this forever. Meeting in secret, always hiding, always afraid. I want more. I want to be able to take you to dinner without disguises. I want to hold your hand in public. I want everyone to know that I am completely, hopelessly in love with you. The confession hung in the cold air between them. Olivia's breath caught and tears filled her eyes. You love me? She whispered. I have loved you since that first night in the rain, Nathan said, cupping her face gently. Maybe even before that. Maybe I was always meant to love you.
Olivia leaned forward and kissed him, pouring all her feelings into that single moment.
When they finally pulled apart, she was crying and smiling at the same time. I love you too, she said. I love you so much it scares me. But Nathan, my father will never accept this. He would rather see me miserable than with you. Then we tell him together, Nathan said firmly. We stop hiding and we fight for what we want. I am not asking you to choose between your family and me. I am asking you to choose yourself for once in your life. Richard's discovery, but fate had other plans. The next morning, Olivia woke to find her father standing in her bedroom doorway, his face a mask of cold fury. In his hand, he held photographs. Olivia and Nathan on the bridge, in the bookstore, in the garden. Every secret meeting documented in painful detail. How long? Richard demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. Olivia sat up, her heart pounding. Father, I can explain. How long have you been betraying this family? Richard roared, his composure finally breaking. He threw the photographs onto her bed. Sneaking around with Nathan Pierce of all people. Do you have any idea what you have done? I have not betrayed anyone, Olivia said, finding courage she did not know she possessed. I fell in love. That is not a crime, Richard laughed bitterly. Love? You think this is about love? Pierce is using you to get to me. He knows exactly who you are and he is manipulating you for information about my company. That is not true, Olivia said desperately. Nathan does not even ask me about your business. This has nothing to do with the rivalry between you two. Everything has to do with that rivalry, Richard snapped. Pierce has been trying to destroy me for 5 years. Now he has found the perfect weapon. My naive daughter, who is foolish enough to believe his lies. The ultimatum Richard paced her room like a caged animal. I am giving you a choice, Olivia. You end this relationship immediately, or I will make sure Nathan Pierce loses everything. I have enough leverage to destroy Pierce Industries in a matter of weeks. I will ruin him so thoroughly that he will wish he had never heard the name Hart. Olivia stood, facing her father with tears streaming down her face. If you destroy Nathan, you destroy me too. Can you not see that? Better destroyed than corrupted, Richard said coldly. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Cut ties with Pierce, or watch me annihilate everything he has built. He left, slamming the door behind him. Olivia collapsed onto her bed, the photographs scattered around her like broken dreams. She knew her father never made empty threats. If she did not end things with Nathan, Richard would follow through on his promise. Nathan stand later that day. Nathan received an unexpected visitor at his office. Richard Hart walked in without an appointment, his security team ensuring they would not be interrupted. Nathan stood from his desk, his body tense but his expression calm. I know about you and my daughter, Richard said without preamble, and I am here to tell you that it ends now. Nathan's jaw tightened. That is not your decision to make. I have made many decisions you disagreed with, Pierce, but this one is final. Stay away from Olivia, or I will destroy everything you have built. I will bankrupt your company, ruin your reputation, and make sure you never do business in this city again. You can try, Nathan said evenly, but threatening me will not change how I feel about your daughter. Richard stepped closer, his eyes cold. You think you love her? You barely know her. This is just another game to you, another way to hurt me. You were wrong, Nathan said firmly. Olivia is not a pawn in some business rivalry. She is a remarkable woman who deserves better than being controlled by you. I love her, and I will not walk away just because you cannot handle the idea of her making her own choices. The confrontation escalates. Richard's face turned red with rage. You have no idea what you are dealing with. I have protected Olivia her entire life. I have given her everything she could possibly need. Except freedom, Nathan shot back. Except the right to live her own life? You have given her a golden cage and called it love. But real love means letting go. It means trusting the person you love to make their own decisions, even when those decisions terrify you. Do not presume to lecture me about love, Richard hissed. You are a selfish child who wants what he cannot have. If you truly cared about Olivia, you would walk away before I have to destroy you and break her heart in the process. Nathan moved around his desk to face Richard directly. I am not walking away. And if you try to destroy me, you will only prove to Olivia that you care more about your pride than her happiness. Is that really the legacy you want to leave your daughter? The question seemed to shake Richard for just a moment, but he quickly recovered his composure. You have been warned, Pierce. The consequences are on your head. Richard left, and Nathan immediately called Olivia. When she answered, her voice was thick with tears. He knows everything, she sobbed. Nathan, he's going to destroy you if I do not end this. Then we stand together, Nathan said gently. Olivia, I meant what I said. I am not afraid of your father, and I am not walking away from you. Olivia's decision that night, Olivia made the hardest decision of her life. She packed a small bag with essentials and left her father's house for the last time. She did not leave a note because there were no words that could bridge the gap between duty and love. She showed up at Nathan's penthouse just after midnight, soaking wet from the rain that had started to fall. When he opened the door and saw her standing there with her bag, he understood immediately. I chose myself, she whispered. For the first time in my life, I chose what I want, and I want you. Nathan pulled her inside and held her close as she cried, letting go of the life she had always known. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. She had walked away from her family, her home, everything familiar. But she had walked toward love, toward freedom, toward a future she could finally call her own. The corporate battle the next week. Richard Hart launched a full-scale corporate assault on Pierce Industries. He used every connection, every favor owed, every piece of leverage he possessed. Stock prices plummeted. Investors grew nervous. News outlets ran stories questioning Nathan's business practices, but Nathan fought back with equal determination. He exposed some of Hart's more questionable business dealings, formed strategic alliances with Richard's rivals, and launched innovative projects that captured public imagination. The battle between Pierce Industries and Hart. Properties became the talk of Wall Street. Olivia watched the war unfold with growing despair. She loved Nathan, but watching her father and the man she loved try to destroy each other was tearing her apart. She knew she had to do something, but what could one person do against such powerful forces? The turning point, the answer came from an unexpected source. Nathan's business partner, Victor, discovered that Hart Properties had been secretly partnering with a corrupt city official to manipulate zoning laws. The scandal, if exposed, would destroy Richard's reputation and possibly lead to criminal charges. Nathan held the evidence in his hands, the weapon that could end the war decisively. All he had to do was release it to the press. But when he looked at Olivia sitting across from him in his office, he saw the conflict in her eyes. "If I release this, it destroys your father," Nathan said quietly. "He would likely face criminal prosecution. His company would collapse. Everything he built would be gone." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "He threatened to destroy you. He has tried to control my entire life, but he is still my father. I cannot ask you to protect him, but I also cannot stand by and watch him be destroyed." Nathan set the folder down and pulled Olivia into his arms. "Then we find another way. We end this war without destroying anyone." The resolution. Nathan arranged a private meeting with Richard at a neutral location, a small cafe far from the eyes of the press and business world. Richard arrived looking older than Nathan remembered. The weeks of corporate warfare having taken their toll. "I have information that could destroy you," Nathan said without preamble, sliding the folder across the table. "Evidence of illegal dealings with city officials. If I wanted revenge, I could end your career tomorrow." Richard's face paled as he looked through the documents. When he looked up, his expression was defeated. "Why are you showing me this instead of releasing it?" "Because I love your daughter," Nathan said simply. "And destroying you would hurt her. So I am offering you a different choice. We end this rivalry. Both companies back down. We coexist without trying to annihilate each other. In return, I keep this evidence private." "And Olivia?" Richard asked quietly. "Olivia makes her own choice," Nathan said firmly. "You do not get to control her anymore. But if you can accept that she is an adult, capable of making her own decisions, maybe we can all move forward." Father and daughter Richard sat in silence for a long moment. Finally he spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "I have spent my entire life building an empire for her. Everything I did was to give her security, opportunity, a future. And somehow I forgot to ask what she actually wanted." "It is not too late to ask now," Nathan said gently. Richard looked at him with something like respect. "You really do love her, do not you?" "More than anything," Nathan confirmed. Richard nodded slowly. "I cannot promise this will be easy. I cannot promise I will ever fully accept this relationship, but I can promise to try. For Olivia's sake, I will try." Later that evening, Richard came to Nathan's penthouse, where Olivia had been staying. Father and daughter faced each other in the living room, both looking nervous and uncertain. "I was wrong," Richard said, the words clearly difficult for him. "I tried to control your life because I was afraid of losing you, but I lost you anyway by holding on too tight. If you can forgive me, I would like to try again, to be the father you deserve, not the one who makes all your choices." Olivia rushed forward and hugged him, both of them crying. "I never wanted to lose you, Dad. I just wanted you to see me." "I see you now," Richard whispered, "and I am so proud of the woman you have become, despite my attempts to mold you into something else." New beginnings. 3 months later, Pierce Industries and Hart Properties announced a surprising partnership. The two companies would collaborate on a revolutionary, sustainable housing project that combined Nathan's innovative technology with Richard's real estate expertise. The business world was shocked, but those who knew the real story understood. Love had done what years of rivalry could not. It had built a bridge between two seemingly incompatible worlds. Nathan and Olivia got engaged in the spring, on the same Brooklyn Bridge where they had first confessed their love. Richard walked Olivia down the aisle that summer, and though his smile was slightly strained when he placed her hand in Nathan's, it was genuine. As Olivia and Nathan exchanged vows in front of family and friends, with the Manhattan skyline as their backdrop, they knew their story was not a fairy tale. They had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, and hurt too deeply for it to be that simple, but it was real, it was honest, and it was theirs. That stormy night on the rooftop had changed both their lives forever. Nathan had found someone who saw past his wealth to the man underneath. Olivia had found the courage to claim her own life, and together, they had proved that sometimes the most impossible love stories are the ones most worth fighting for. Years later, when people asked Nathan about the secret to his success, both in business and in life, he always gave the same answer. I learned that real strength is not about controlling everything around you. It is about having the courage to let go, to trust, and to fight for what truly matters. And when Olivia was asked what she had learned from her journey, she smiled and said, "I learned that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is the bravest thing you can do. And sometimes, when you finally claim your own life, you discover it was worth the wait." Their story became legendary in New York business circles, not as a cautionary tale about mixing business with pleasure, but as proof that love could transform even the most bitter rivals into allies. The Hart-Pierce Foundation, established jointly by both families, went on to help hundreds of young people break free from limiting expectations and pursue their true passions. Because Nathan and Olivia understood better than most. Everyone deserves the chance to write their own story, even if it means rewriting everything you thought you knew about your life, even if it means standing in the rain and choosing hope over fear, even if it means loving someone you were supposed to hate. That is the real secret to a life well lived. Not avoiding the storm, but finding someone worth standing in it with you. The end.